The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the Williams family dining room as I adjusted my simple black dress for the third time. Mom's 60th birthday party was supposed to be a celebration, but I could already feel the familiar tension building in my chest. Through the French doors, I watched my siblings arriving in their luxury cars I'd unknowingly helped finance through years of anonymous family support. "Victoria's here," my sister Amanda announced loudly, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. "Should we hide the expensive wine?" My brother Marcus laughed from his position by the fireplace, swirling his whiskey glass. "Come on, Amanda. Give our little sister some credit. She probably saved up for months to afford that dress from Target." I forced a smile and stepped into the room where 20 family members had gathered. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was the only one who could actually afford to throw a party like this, yet I was treated like the family charity case. "Victoria." Mom's voice carried across the room with false enthusiasm. "You made it. I wasn't sure you'd have the gas money to drive over." "Happy birthday, Mom," I said quietly, placing a small wrapped gift on the side table next to the mountain of expensive presents. "You look beautiful." She barely glanced at my gift. "Oh, how sweet. Another homemade something, I'm sure." She turned back to my Aunt Linda. "As I was saying, Marcus just closed another $1 million deal at the firm." I found a quiet corner and watched my family celebrate. Dad held court near the bar, regaling cousins with stories of Marcus's legal victories. Amanda showed off her latest jewelry acquisition to anyone who would listen. My younger cousin Jake, fresh out of college, bragged about his new startup that was definitely going to be the next big thing. What none of them knew was that Marcus's law firm had been struggling for 2 years. I'd been quietly covering his office rent through an investment shell company. Amanda's jewelry store stayed afloat because I'd purchased her entire inventory through various business entities, then resold it at a loss. Jake's startup had exactly one investor, me, operating through a venture capital fund I'd created specifically to help family members without them knowing. For the past 8 years, I'd been the invisible safety net keeping the Williams family lifestyle intact. While they saw me as the disappointing daughter who worked some little computer job, I'd built Phoenix Medical Technologies into a $4.2 billion empire specializing in advanced diagnostic equipment. My innovations had revolutionized early cancer detection and were being used in hospitals across 37 countries. "Attention everyone." Dad clinked his knife against his glass. "Before we cut the cake, I think it's time we address the elephant in the room." My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. "Victoria." Mom's voice had turned ice cold. "We need to talk." The room fell silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned to me. "We've been patient with you," Mom continued, her voice rising. "You're 32 years old, living in that tiny apartment, driving that ancient Honda, working at some no-name tech company. Meanwhile, your siblings are successful lawyers and business owners, contributing to society." "Mom," I started quietly, but she held up her hand. "No, let me finish. We've tried to help you. We've invited you to family events, hoping you'd network and find a real career. But you just sit in corners, contributing nothing to conversations about business or success." Marcus stepped forward, emboldened by Mom's speech. "Honestly, Vic, it's embarrassing. When people ask what my sister does, I don't even know what to say. She does something with computers? Come on." Amanda nodded vigorously. "At the country club, everyone talks about their children's achievements. What am I supposed to say about you? That you're, what exactly? A secretary at some startup nobody's heard of?" I felt my face burning, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm a software engineer. I develop medical diagnostic systems." "Right," Dad said dismissively. "Look, sweetheart, we love you, but love isn't enough anymore. You're bringing down the family reputation. The Williams name means something in this city." "We've made a decision," Mom announced, her voice carrying the finality of a judge's gavel. "Until you get your life together, real job, real apartment, real contribution to this family, you're not welcome at family events." The room was dead silent except for the soft jazz music still playing from the sound system. "You're not family anymore," Mom continued, her words hitting like physical blows. "Get out. And don't come back until you have something real to show for your life." My siblings just watched. My cousins stared at their drinks. My aunts and uncles suddenly found the artwork fascinating. Nobody said a word in my defense. I stood up slowly, my legs somehow steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. Okay, I said quietly. Okay. Mom's eyebrows shot up. That's it? No argument? No promises to change. Okay, I repeated. I picked up my small gift from the side table. I understand. I walked toward the door, my family's silence following me like a shadow. At the threshold I turned back. Happy birthday, Mom. I hope you have everything you've always wanted. Then I left. In my car. That ancient Honda, that I kept specifically because it was reliable and unassuming, I sat for a moment in their circular driveway. Through the windows I could see the party resuming. Someone had turned the music up. Laughter drifted across the manicured lawn. I pulled out my phone and made 3 calls. Jennifer? It's Victoria. Yes, I know it's Saturday night. I need you to execute Protocol 7 immediately. All Williams family accounts, effective tomorrow morning. Is all of them? No, this is permanent. The second call was to my financial advisor. David, the family support program is terminated as of right now. All investments, all safety nets, all anonymous assistance. Yes, everything we discussed. The law firm rent, the jewelry store inventory purchases, Jake's startup funding, even Dad's golf club membership that he thinks his company pays for. All of it stops Monday morning. The third call was to my assistant. Maria, I need you to contact Channel 7 News. The hospital wing announcement is moving up to tomorrow morning instead of next week. Yes, the $50 million Children's Cancer Research Wing. Make sure they have all the details about the Phoenix Medical Technologies donation. I drove home to my tiny apartment, a modest 2-bedroom condo that I maintained as my public address while my actual home was an $8 million penthouse downtown. The condo served its purpose. It kept my family's assumptions intact while I built an empire in secret. That night I didn't sleep much. Instead I sat on my small balcony looking out at the city lights and thinking about the past 8 years. I'd graduated MIT with a dual PhD in biomedical engineering and computer science at 24. By 26, I'd developed the first AI-powered cancer detection system that could identify malignancies 18 months earlier than traditional methods. By 30, Phoenix Medical Technologies was valued at over $3 billion. I'd kept it secret from my family initially because I wanted to surprise them. But as months turned to years and their dismissive comments continued, I realized something important. They loved the idea of me failing. It made them feel better about their own modest successes. Marcus was a competent lawyer but not exceptional. Amanda ran a small jewelry store but it wasn't profitable. Dad had managed a regional sales territory his entire career, respectable but unremarkable. In their minds, having a failure in the family elevated their own achievements. So I let them believe it. Sunday morning arrived with gray clouds and the promise of rain. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my phone started ringing. First it was Marcus. Vic, hey, something weird happened. My credit card was declined this morning and when I called the bank they said my line of credit was revoked. Do you know anything about... Wait, why would you know anything? Never mind. Then Amanda called. Victoria, I'm having the strangest morning. 3 of my business accounts have been frozen, and my landlord called saying there was an issue with the rent payment. Also, my credit cards aren't working. I'm probably calling the wrong person, but you don't happen to know anything about banking issues, do you? Dad called an hour later. Sweetheart, I know we had words yesterday but I'm in a bit of a bind. The country club called saying my membership payment bounced, which is impossible because the company handles that automatically. And my golf tournament fee was declined. There must be some computer error somewhere. I didn't answer any of their calls. Instead, I turned on Channel 7 News at exactly 9 a.m. Good morning, I'm Sarah Chin with breaking news from City General Hospital. In an unprecedented act of philanthropy, Phoenix Medical Technologies has donated $50 million to fund a new children's cancer research wing. The donation, announced this morning, represents the largest single contribution in the hospital's history. The camera switched to footage of the hospital groundbreaking ceremony I'd attended 2 weeks ago. The new wing, which will be named the Victoria Williams Center for Pediatric Cancer Research, will house state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment designed by Phoenix Medical Technologies. The company's revolutionary early detection systems have already saved thousands of lives worldwide. The news anchor continued. Phoenix Medical Technologies, founded and led by CEO Victoria Williams, has been quietly revolutionizing cancer treatment for the past 8 years. Ms. Williams, a local graduate who earned dual PhDs from MIT, has built the company into a global leader in medical diagnostics. My phone exploded. Marcus called 6 times in a row. Amanda left 4 voicemails. Dad sent a stream of text messages that evolved from confusion to panic. But it was Mom's call that I finally answered. Victoria. Her voice was small, uncertain. Honey, I just saw the news. There's been some mistake. They're saying you donated $50 million to the hospital. They're saying you're the CEO of some medical company. There's no mistake, Mom. Silence. But you work at a small tech company. You drive an old car. Your apartment is a 2-bedroom condo that I bought with cash 7 years ago. It serves as my public address. My actual home is downtown. More silence. Victoria, I don't understand. If you have money, if you have a successful company, why didn't you tell us? I walked to my window, looking out at the city where my family was probably panicking about their suddenly frozen accounts and declined credit cards. Do you remember what you said to me last Christmas, Mom? When I tried to suggest that maybe Marcus's law firm should diversify its client base. No, I don't recall. You said, Victoria, honey, leave the business advice to people who actually understand business. Do you remember what you said when I offered to help Amanda with her store's inventory management? Victoria. You said, sweetie, stick to your computers. Business is for people who understand money. Do you remember what Dad said when I suggested Jake might want to reconsider his startup strategy? She was crying now, soft sounds over the phone. He said, Victoria, when you've actually built something successful, then you can give advice. Oh my God, she whispered. For 8 years, I listened to my family tell me I was a failure while I was secretly keeping all of you afloat. Marcus's law firm has been losing money for 2 years. I've been covering his office rent through shell companies. Amanda's store would have closed 3 years ago if I hadn't been purchasing her inventory through various business entities. Jake's startup has exactly one investor, me. Dad's golf club membership, his car lease, even your yearly vacation to Europe. All funded by the daughter you just disowned for being unsuccessful. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. The hospital wing, she finally whispered. The Victoria Williams Center for Pediatric Cancer Research. Named after the daughter who apparently doesn't contribute anything to the family. Victoria, please. We didn't know. How could we have known? You could have listened to me. Any of you. At any point in the last 8 years, you could have asked about my work instead of dismissing it. You could have shown interest in my life instead of assuming I was a failure. We can fix this, she said desperately. Come over. Let's talk. Let's. Mom, do you know what I did yesterday after I left your party? What? I terminated every financial support system I'd put in place for this family. As of this morning, Marcus is responsible for his own business expenses. Amanda will need to fund her own inventory. Jake's startup funding has been withdrawn. Dad's memberships and car payments are his responsibility now. You can't. Victoria, we need. You said I wasn't family anymore unless I had something real to show for my life. Well, I have a $4.2 billion medical technology company, property holdings across 6 countries, and a portfolio that includes significant stakes in 15 major hospitals. But more importantly, I have self-respect. And I'm not going to keep funding a family that sees me as an embarrassment. Please, she whispered. We made a mistake. A terrible mistake. You made a choice, Mom. You all did. For 8 years, you chose to see me as a failure rather than asking what I actually did for work. You chose to mock my car and my apartment rather than wondering why someone with my education might choose to live modestly. You chose to exclude me from business conversations rather than valuing my input. I paused, watching rain begin to streak my windows. And yesterday, you chose to disown me rather than consider that maybe you didn't know the whole story. What can we do? She asked. How can we fix this? I don't know if you can. But if you want to try, it starts with acknowledging that you were wrong. Not just about my financial situation but about who I am as a person. You've spent 8 years treating me like a charity case instead of like a daughter whose choices might have been deliberate and intelligent. We acknowledge it, she said quickly. We were wrong. Completely wrong. I need to go, Mom. I have a board meeting this afternoon to discuss our expansion into pediatric cardiac devices. Victoria, wait. The hospital wing dedication ceremony is next Friday at 2 p.m. You're welcome to attend if you want to see what your unsuccessful daughter has actually been building. I hung up. For the next week, my family tried everything. Marcus showed up at my condo building, but security, which I'd upgraded years ago, didn't let him pass the lobby. Amanda sent flowers with a note apologizing for misunderstanding my situation. Dad wrote a long email explaining that they'd been protective of me and just wanted me to succeed. Jake, interestingly, was the only one who called with a genuine apology. Victoria, I'm an idiot. I actually Googled your company after the news broke. Your cancer detection system saved my friend's mom last year, and I had no idea you created it. I'm sorry for being such an ass. The hospital wing dedication ceremony was covered by 3 local news stations and 2 national networks. As I stood at the podium looking out at an audience of medical professionals, hospital administrators, and local dignitaries, I spotted my family in the back rows. The Victoria Williams Center for Pediatric Cancer Research represents more than a financial contribution, I said into the microphone. It represents hope for families facing every parent's worst nightmare. The diagnostic equipment we're installing here can detect pediatric cancers up to 18 months earlier than current standard methods. 18 months that can mean the difference between life and death for a child. I paused, my eyes briefly meeting moms across the crowd. This center is dedicated to the belief that every child deserves a chance at a full life, and that innovation should serve humanity's most vulnerable members. The technology we're implementing here will be available to every family, regardless of their economic situation, because access to life-saving care shouldn't depend on a family's ability to pay. After the ceremony, as reporters asked questions and hospital administrators discussed implementation timelines, I noticed my family approaching hesitantly. Victoria, Mom said softly, Could we talk? I looked at the 5 of them, Mom, Dad, Marcus, Amanda, and Jake, standing together in their expensive clothes, looking uncomfortable and uncertain for the first time in my memory. What would you like to talk about? About how wrong we were, Dad said, his voice shaky. About how we failed you as parents. We watched the whole ceremony, Amanda added. The doctors were saying your machines have already saved hundreds of children's lives. We had no idea. The reporter said you've been working 18-hour days for 8 years, Marcus said quietly. While we were calling you a failure. Jake stepped forward. Victoria, I researched everything this week. Your company's innovations, your patents, your published research. You're not just successful, you're literally saving lives. And we treated you like an embarrassment, I finished. Yes, Mom whispered, tears streaming down her face. We treated our brilliant, successful, generous daughter like an embarrassment because she didn't fit our narrow definition of success. I looked at each of them, these people who had shaped my childhood, who I'd loved enough to support secretly for 8 years, who had broken my heart 6 days ago. Here's what's going to happen, I said finally. I'm not going to continue funding your lifestyles. You're all adults and you need to manage your own finances. Marcus, your law firm needs to find actual sustainable clients. Amanda, your store needs to operate profitably without phantom investors. Dad, you need to pay for your own memberships and luxuries. They nodded, looking appropriately chastened. But, I continued, I'm not going to cut you out of my life entirely. Because despite everything that happened, you're still my family. However, our relationships are going to be different going forward. Different how? Mom asked. You're going to treat me like an equal. You're going to respect my choices, my career, and my intelligence. You're going to stop making assumptions about my life and start asking questions instead. And you're going to understand that trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. Anything, Dad said quickly. Whatever you need. I need you to understand why I kept my success secret. It wasn't because I was ashamed of you. It was because I realized that you were more comfortable with me being unsuccessful than you would have been with me being more successful than you. The weight of that statement settled over them. Marcus started, then stopped. That's probably true. And that's awful. It is awful, I agreed. But it's also human. Families are complicated. Success can be threatening. I understand why it happened, but I also can't pretend it didn't happen. What do we do now? Amanda asked. Now you go home and think about what kind of family you want to be. Do you want to be the kind of family that supports each other, or the kind that needs everyone else to fail so they can feel successful? I turned to leave, then looked back. Family dinner is next Sunday at 1 p.m. My place downtown. The real one, not the condo. Come if you want to start over. Don't come if you can't handle having a daughter who's more successful than you expected. As I walked away, I heard Mom call after me, Victoria, we love you. We've always loved you. I turned back one more time. I love you too, Mom. But love isn't enough if it doesn't come with respect. The following Sunday, all 5 of them showed up at my penthouse. They were quieter than usual, more thoughtful. Dad asked genuine questions about my work. Amanda wanted to understand the cancer detection technology. Marcus admitted he'd spent the week reading about biomedical engineering because he wanted to better understand what I did. Mom spent most of the afternoon just watching me, as if seeing me clearly for the first time. I keep thinking about that gift you brought to my birthday party, she said as we cleaned up after dinner. I dismissed it without even opening it. What was it? I went to my study and returned with the small wrapped package. Open it now, I said. Inside was a simple silver bracelet with a small engraving. To Mom, who taught me to be strong even when nobody believes in you. Love, Victoria. She held it for a long moment, tears flowing freely. I taught you that, she whispered. But then I became one of the people who didn't believe in you. You taught me a lot of good things, Mom. You taught me to work hard, to be independent, to not give up. Those lessons helped me build Phoenix Medical Technologies. They helped me succeed despite the doubt instead of because of support. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I know you are. We all make mistakes. The question is what we do next. 6 months later, Marcus had restructured his law firm and was actually turning a profit with a focus on medical malpractice cases, a specialty I'd suggested years earlier that he'd dismissed. Amanda had closed her struggling jewelry store and opened a small art gallery that featured local artists. It was smaller but sustainable and made her genuinely happy. Jake had used the hard lessons from his failed startup to begin working at an established tech company, learning the industry from the ground up. Dad had taken early retirement and started volunteering at the Children's Hospital, reading to young patients in the cancer ward. And Mom had become my biggest advocate. She'd learned enough about my work to have actual conversations about biomedical technology. She bragged about me to everyone who would listen, not about my money but about the lives my innovations had saved. The Victoria Williams Center for Pediatric Cancer Research was fully operational, and early reports showed a 40% improvement in early detection rates. 3 more hospitals had requested similar installations. At my 33rd birthday party, held at the same restaurant where Mom had disowned me, she stood up to make a toast. A year ago I thought I knew my daughter, she began. I thought she was struggling, unsuccessful, disappointing. I was wrong about all of that, but I was wrong about something much more important. I thought love meant protecting her from failure, when what she actually needed was for us to believe in her success. She raised her glass. To Victoria, who taught us that sometimes the people who look the least successful are actually changing the world. And who forgave us for being too blind to see it. As everyone raised their glasses, I looked around the table at my family, imperfect, complicated, human people who had hurt me deeply and were working every day to do better. To second chances, I said. And to families who learned to see each other clearly. It wasn't a perfect ending. Trust takes time to rebuild, and there were still moments of tension, still occasions when old patterns tried to resurface. But it was a real ending, one built on honesty, respect, and the understanding that love without respect isn't really love at all. The Phoenix Medical Technologies board meeting the next week was routine until our research director announced breakthrough results in pediatric cardiac detection. As I listened to the presentation about saving children's lives, I thought about the last year, the pain of being disowned, the satisfaction of proving myself, and the difficult work of rebuilding relationships. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Saw the news about the cardiac breakthrough. So proud of my brilliant daughter. Love you. I smiled and texted back, love you too. See you Sunday. Some victories aren't about defeating your family. Sometimes, they're about teaching them to see you clearly enough that defeating them becomes unnecessary. The greatest revenge I'd learned wasn't showing them how wrong they were about my failure. It was showing them how right I was about my success.